Check test. 1 2 1 2. All right. right, I believe we are up and running here now. So this is the 2022 Canadian Indoor Singles Championships. Our feature match here, we're going to try to do rink 4 there on the left-hand side between John McDonald and Pat Bird. So it's a battle of Alberta. John McDonald is using the blue bowls, 2 of them on the jack there basically you can see, and Pat Bird has, they're kind of a funky color of green, blue, and purple, darker colored bowls. You can see one of his at the back. This is the first round of the day for the men, but the third round overall, as the women play 2 rounds this morning and men will play 2 rounds this afternoon. Pat just locks one on there. You can see the scores and standings by going to bowlscanada.com and under events and results, national events and indoor singles. There is a link about halfway down the page that'll take you to the scoring page. The reason that's on a separate page is just to make it mobile friendly. So you'll see schedule, player list, draw, results, standings. Based off of the standings so far, the men played 2 rounds yesterday already. And so John McDonald went 1-1 and Pat Bird went 2-0. So Pat beat Eric Gallipo from Ontario in a tiebreak, 3-7, 7-6, 3-2. And his second game, he beat Kerry Lucier in a tiebreak, 10-2, 3-12, 4-3. While John McDonald lost his first game to Kerry Lucier, 6-9, 9-6, 2-3, and then beat up on Carter Watson from Saskatchewan, 13-5 and 10-5. So we are already 3 ends into this first set. They play 2 9-end sets and a tiebreak, 3-end tiebreak if necessary. And so this is end number 4 of the first set. And apologies, this is going to be a little bit of a tricky game here today with some of the spectators in front. You can see Haren Bartu, one of the players there with the black cap, and Jenny Sue, one of the markers up there, the all in white. Based off of the head that you can see there just to the left of Jenny, it looks like Pat is still holding to 1. He is coming down to take a look though, and that is a tight head. A little jack movement could be in his favor, but that's playing with fire. I would be tempted to leave well enough alone. So Pat's walking back to the mat here, going to play his last bowl of this 4th end in the first set. We are, of course, here at the PIBC in Vancouver, so the Pacific Indoor Bowls Club in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. So Pat's playing on the far ditch-hand side coming around. It looks like he's leaving well enough alone. I think he was just trying to draw. I don't think he was trying to do too much, but that looks like that'll be 1 to Pat. So that'll make it 3-2 after 4. So here at the PIBC, the greens tend to run between 16, 17 seconds, depending on how much AC is pumping to pick up the green speed. They're probably close to 16 and a half, I would guess. And so you can see they're playing with yellow jacks because they're a little bit heavier. Pat Bird had a great opening bowl, and John McDonald's looking to follow him down, but coming up well short on his first. Pat and John played together in the men's fours at our 2022 Canadian Championships, took home the gold alongside Mike O'Reilly and Francis Standen. So teammates in Burlington and opponents here. Great second bowl there from Pat Bird. John's looking to follow him down. He's not a mile away. This is a big improvement on his first. Just trailing the jack clean. Beautiful bowl. John did finish first in the provincial qualifiers, so he is Alberta 1 in this event. Not quite sure whether he would have played Pat or not. I would imagine so. And of course, the winners of this event, the men's winner and women's winner, will be representing Canada at the 2023 World Cup, World Indoor Championships. They'll play indoor singles there, and also new they'll be teaming up to play a mixed pairs event as well, so 2-for-1 action if you do happen to win this event. Shane, nice to have you with us once again. I can see that you're cheering for Rob the Marker, as you're a BC native, not cheering for either Albertan. And like you said, on rink 5 here, there's Heren Bartu against Jim Duholke, Battle of BC going on. Jim is actually up 4-2 over Heren at the moment. And on the rink beside that is Eric Galipeau against Pierre Vanderhoot, a Battle of Ontario, where Eric is up 7-1 over Pierre. Rink 3 is a Battle of Saskatchewan between Carter Watson and Doug Prop, and it looks like it's a 3-2 game for Doug over Carter. Rink 2 is Kerry Lucier against Jerome Kirby, where Kerry's up 3-1 over Jerome. And way down at the end, it's another BC battle between Tim Mason and Alan Loss, and Tim's up 7-1. Game at hand here. It looks like John's found his line, but is just sort of struggling with his weight. And Pat's got a couple of seconds, but his last bowl to come, as he has one on the ditch board on the bank behind. So Pat's making up his mind here with no bowls past the jack at all. You can see all 3, 4, 5 bowls on the rink are in front of the jack. I would expect maybe a touch of weight, trying to push that blue bowl through, come in off of his own. Pat being a lefty, that would be a righty's forehand, a lefty's backhand that he's playing right now. And that looks wide and heavy. So I think he missed his line, but was playing with some weight, trying to get some action. One bowl left here to come for John McDonald. Has about 6 inches, 5 inches worth of space to draw in. Pat's last bowl did actually go in the ditch, even though you can't see it. So not a whole lot of danger if the jack does move back, as there's nothing back there. Shane, nice to see that you popped in for the second round yesterday, and absolutely there's some great battles. Heren and Eric was a doozy, and Pat and Kerry was a great battle as well. It seems like most of the games here are going to tie breaks, which tells you that games are being battled back and forth. I know Carey was quite vocal in his game as he was down 3-0 in the tie break and popped the jack in the ditch to score 3 to force it to a fourth end in the tie break, I guess. So John is coming up well narrow. His weight's probably not too far off, a little quick for what he was hoping for, I would imagine, but he's still going to sneak away with 1, which will push that lead forward to 4-2 after 5 ends of play, assuming that what I see here is correct. And marker's already updating the board, so yes, we are. (4-2) after 5 in this first 9-end set between John McDonald, Pat Bird, Battle of Alberta. As John's rolling the jack, I'll quickly thank Sport Canada, the sport branch of the Government of Canada, for funding all of our national championships. And of course our sponsors and partners. Kukri's our clothing supplier, Event Connect our hotel or accommodation supplier, and Nother's the award store for all of our awards. Beautiful opening bowl there from John McDonald. Pat is playing around the clock, it looks like, on his backhand here again. Being so close to the ditch side, you just squeeze through it as you come back down. And he is a touch on the high side, but a well-weighted bowl. John immediately turned around and slapped his leg after that, so I don't think he liked this bowl at all. Not sure why, though, other than being fast. It's not terrible. Pretty good position to be in, coming right back to the tee, just about 4 inches in front of the tee. I wouldn't be overly upset with that. Pat's sticking to his backhand here, probably looking to just come inside onto John's bowl, I would imagine. We'll see if he tightened up the line at all. Doesn't need to change too much for weight, just maybe an extra 6 inches or so. He did add the weight, a little more than I was expecting, but right back to the center line. John McDonald is also a lefty, so it's a battle of the lefties and a battle of Alberta. Did he send it? It looks like a nice track. Is it here? Well played, John. Beautiful bowl. Players are standing down waiting for each other at the other end there. Jim's on the mat, and Pat's just standing off watching. That's a common move for 5-pin, 10-pin alley bowling, where the person next to you, if they're about to bowl, you step off and wait for them to bowl. And it looks like Jim Duholke is throwing some weight here. Heren's got the red bowls, Jim's got the black ones, and Jim just missed inside of everything. So Heren's lying a couple there, maybe even 3. It is 5-2 in that game for Jim, so this could be almost a tie game after this, pending what Heren does with his last bowl. And because he's so quick on the mat, Pat is still standing there waiting to let Heren go first. Surprisingly, here at the indoor singles, there's actually no time limit, so games are taking approximately 2 hours, but there's really no limit right now for them to play their 2 9-end sets and possible 3-end tiebreak. Pat's chasing this bowl down. He's going all the way back and just past the tee, so he's got the best back, but John still has the tee covered. I would suspect he's looking to change up the head here, as that looks like a pretty juicy target to fire at. It's pretty wide. There is a gap there, but Don't want to leave Pat the opportunity to either draw that off. Pat could trail it for 3. He could fire at it. There's lots of options for him, so I think John's got to change the look of this a bit, and I don't think he did. He actually just made that head look even juicier. Not a great end result for him there, as that's now an extra wing bowl for Pat to come in off of. Pat's doing the finger dance to see how many he's down. From here, it only looks like 2, but obviously Pat would have a better eye than I would. Lots of options here. Can play wait, can play a trail, can play just over a draw. So on rank 5 here in the middle, Herendra Bartu did pick up a 3, so now it's all tied up at 5 against Jim Duholke after 6 ends of play. And Pat is firing at this. And he got bull and jack and coming back. That should be good for 2. So that would tie the game. For all after 6 ends of play. So 3 to go here in this first set. Interesting with the new schedule this year. We used to have men and women alternating, so men play a game, then women play a game, then men play a game, then women play a game. But this year we changed it up so that you play both your games in the morning and then you have the afternoon off, or you play both your games in the afternoon and you have the morning off. So this being the first round for the men, I'm not sure how much practice time they would have got prior to as the women were playing. So I think some of them might have been able to roll a few bulls, but not many, so they're still coming in pretty cold. And obviously with there being only 3 rinks with the divider in the middle, they can't really play sideways, so that also limits where you can practice, how you can practice. For outdoor events, you normally practice in the opposite direction, but can't really do that here. So Pat is still sticking to that backhand. Forehand for a righty, backhand for a lefty. Just coming around in behind, probably a good meter and a bit past. And I'll also give a big thanks to sportscanada.tv for renting us the equipment here to be able to broadcast stream this to you. It is nice to have 2 cameras to give you both ends. John is hunting that down, just coming up short of Pat's bull to be shot, but also still just over a meter past the jack. Pat's sticking with that backhand. Looks like he made a bit of an adjustment. Took off maybe a bit too much weight though, and that's just shy of a meter short. Hard to tell if that's shot or not. I suspect it won't matter anyway, as one of these players are going to get something closer than that, I would imagine. And John didn't make much of an adjustment at all. That's a pretty good caterpillar, but not what you want to be doing at the moment. Looking to make that adjustment to take a meter off to try and get a good shot bull. That looks like a quick bull to me. I think Pat's going around to the back and covering the tee. Yep, there it is. Not sure if that was intentional or not, as he already had the best back to begin with anyway, but maybe that's part of the strategy. John's looking to make the adjustment. I think he's changed his line a touch. Just inside, but that will be number one, no doubt about it. So Pat is still trying to draw in. He made quite the adjustment from his last one as it was back by the tee. I don't know if that's good enough or not. John's asking, is that shot? And it was, so that last ball from Pat is numero uno. John's still trying to play that lefty backhand. Needs to come inside of Pat's to grab the jack. There is a trail there for 4. If he gets it, he's close. Got it. Don't know if that was enough to get the 4 ball on that trail, but he gave it a good shot. Beautiful bowl. Clutch with his last one, too. Well, you know, Sarah, you weren't willing to come out here to be the victim to sit next to me and talk either. I haven't had you on a broadcast with me yet before, so if you're willing and able, there's still the rest of the week to co-commentate with Sarah Van Stein. So Pat's kicked out 2. John's doing the finger dance. I'm not sure why. Definitely worth just going straight to the measure. Not sure what the end result was there. Definitely not 4 based off of that measure, but 2 or 3, I would think. It was 2. Now is when the strategy gets interesting. So with 9 end sets, there's only 2 ends to go, so John's got a 2-point lead. Never want to give up the first set if you can help it. If you can be in the driver's seat going into that second set, then you can get away with just a tie and still win the game. So 2 ends to go in this first set. Bold of you to assume that I'd be able to explain anything Zoom Zoom. I need someone who knows zero about lawn bowling and can explain it to them throughout the game. Bold of you to assume I know anything. I have been playing for over 20 years now, but doesn't mean my explanation is going to be great. So John's first bowl is coming up probably 2 meters short. That looks almost like 2 dots. I'm not sure if you can see that on your screen, but there are actually dots on the center line of each rink. You can probably see the tee at the back. That's probably the brightest thing that you'll be able to see right now, but there are little white dots every meter out, so that makes it easier for the players and the marker to give an assessment of how short or how far bowls are, and so that's a good 2 dot difference between the jack and bowl, and Pat's also coming up short, matching him. You got it, Zoom Zoom. There's a yellow thing, you take the bigger funny colored things and you roll them to try and get close to the yellow thing. Do not lob it, the end. Bowls in a nutshell. There's a good adjustment from Johnny McDonald. Coming up a good foot short still, but good improvement from his first. Just coming up short. So John's still looking to add at least a foot. Anything past the jack would probably be a good idea too. And he's definitely made that adjustment. Just grabbing the jack on his way through. Great shot there from John. Make it 2 for Mr. McDonald. So Pat's taking a look at the scoreboard here right now. Okay, 2 more yards, Pat. Well played, Susan. So there is 2 bowls left here for Pat. He's down 2 in the game, playing the 8th end of this first set. Definitely looking to count here to give himself a good chance going into the final end of the set, and John's looking to just count and really be in the driver's seat. Pat's chasing this down. He's in the ballpark, just sailing through, and you can hear the audience behind me going, oh. That might have cut him down to 1. That could be second shot. Hard to say. Not a dumb question at all. This is in BC, so the Pacific Indoor Bowls Club PIBC here in British Columbia. It's in Vancouver. 4588 Clancy Loringer Way, if you wanted to know. And what a beautiful shot there from John McDonald. Well played, sir. Make that 2 for sure. So the PIBC here was moved to this location, I want to say in the late 90s, I think 98, 99, somewhere around there, and has been here ever since. There's a gymnastics studio above us, so you'll probably hear some thumping upstairs as people are doing flips and twists and everything else. There was a lot of support from not only the members, but also provincial government and local government to be able to build this facility. So gymnastics above, bowls below. It is, to the best of my knowledge, the only bowl-specific indoor facility in Canada, aside from a couple of other indoor attachments. Qualicum Beach has, I think, 2 or 3 rinks connected to their clubhouse, and there's, I think, one in Newmarket that has a couple of rinks connected to their clubhouse, but they're not full length or legal enough for us to have national championships at. So this is the biggest and best bowl-specific facility in the country. Back to the game at hand. It is for sure 2 to John. I'm not sure if he got 3 out of that or not. I'll wait for the marker to update the scoreboard before making any bold assumptions, but that would make it at least 8-4, maybe even 9-4. There are a lot of indoor clubs across Canada. You're not alone there, Zoom Zoom, who play on an indoor soccer pitch when there's nothing else to be found, and it's better than nothing and will keep you in shape. And as the marker updates the scoreboard, it is in fact 8-4 going into this last end of this first set. Shane, you're not wrong. He's saying wish they'd have put the gymnastics downstairs and us upstairs. Those kids are loud. Yes, they are. So whenever anything moves upstairs, you can hear it echoing here fairly loudly. And that's a great opening bowl from John McDonald. Probably would have been a lot quieter to have bowls upstairs and gymnastics downstairs, as I don't imagine it would be super loud to roll a bowl down and hear that in the basement underneath. But oh well, I'm still just happy that there is an indoor facility like this to begin with. So pressure on here for Pat. He needs a perfect 4 just to tie this first set. And I'm wondering if that's part of the strategy coming up as he's going back past the tee. Might be setting up a pocket of what's to come. Susan, you're going to have to tell me whereabouts in Quebec this is. No joke, the place where she used to play pre-pandemic was called the Ministry of Cricket and Other Homeless Sports. That is without a doubt the greatest name for a facility I've ever heard. Please tell me where that is next time I'm in Montreal. I want to go and take a look. The Ministry of Cricket and Other Homeless Sports. Sounds like a Harry Potter movie. So John was playing some position there with his second, which is a really good idea, and now Pat's switching it up and coming up just shy of John's. That's going to make it trickier now to try and get a 4-ball. Here we go, 1301 Rue Mazaret, Montreal, Quebec. Ahuntsic area, I think it's in. My knowledge of that area is not good. Well, understandable that it wouldn't be great I can't imagine with a name like that it's in a prime destination. So, Susan, you said you played at the Ministry of Cricket and Other Homeless Sports, where it was an indoor soccer pitch. I'm curious why that would have been there if it's the other homeless sports, because soccer is a pretty popular sport. I don't know if I would classify that as a homeless sport to be playing on an indoor soccer pitch. Give you some other scores going on here. Looks like Kerry Lucier's up 7-5 over Jerome Kirby, playing the last end of their set. Carter Watson and Doug Prop. It looks like Carter's up 7-3 over Doug, playing end 8. Eric Gallipo is having his way with Pierre Vanderhoot, 11-1, playing end number 8. Well, it looks like they just finished and Pierre counted, so maybe 11-2. And I can't quite tell between Heren and Jim in front of us, as they're both in front of the scoreboard. Pat is throwing weight at this here, and that is not a big target, and he has sailed right through everything. So that means the first set will be going to John McDonald, no matter what happens here, as Pat's bowls in the ditch. So it is 7-7 between Heren and Jim on the rink next door here, number 5. Tight game, tight match. So to indicate that John has won the first set, I'm going to put a 1 next to his name. And of course that makes it too big to actually fit on the scoreboard, so bear with me as I update that. There we go. John McDonald, first set in his favor. So Susan's telling us that that Ministry of Cricket and Other Homeless Sports has extreme archery, batting cages, soccer fields, bachelor parties, ball hockey, bubble soccer, birthday parties, team building, escape room, family activities, lawn bowling, field hockey, and another escape room. I also am not sure what extreme archery is, but that is quite the mishmash of things. So first set in the books going to John McDonald. And so for anyone listening, my plan here is to stream 2 games per day, 1 men's, 1 women's. So since the women are already done, this will be the only broadcast for today. Tomorrow, we'll be starting, depending on when the games actually start, probably 10:45 local time here in BC. So I'll let you do the math for what that is wherever you're viewing from. But 10:45, 11 a.m., somewhere in there for game 1, which will be the last game for the men, followed by the first game for the women, which will probably start around 1 p.m. local time. And that's a great opening bowl from John. And Pat is very close in the ballpark. Look at this. Wow. What a shot. So clearly now that the second set has started, these two guys are ready to roll. Shane, can you elaborate on what Extreme Lawn Bowls is? Do you still volunteer as tribute for that? Coming up on the high side is John, but his weight's in the ballpark. So it looks like Jim Duholke has taken the first set over Heren Bar 2 on rink 5 here. Eric Gallipo is about to take the first set over Pierre van der Hout on rink 6. Carter Watson is about to take the first set over Doug Prop on rink 3. Kerry Lucier did in fact win his set over Jerome Kirby on rink 2. And Tim won his set against Alan Wass on rink 1. Thanks for clarifying, Shane. I myself am familiar with that. So John had a better line, but was a meter heavy. Not sure if he was just trying to draw inside or come down onto Pat's bowl. Susan, sounds like you're describing crown bowls to me, where you can play in any direction, put the mat anywhere. So Pat's more or less taken that hand away now from John, I would think. Based off of where that last bowl is, I can't imagine he's still going to try to play inside that. Pat is lying 2 now at the moment. Ah, Susan, so this is something I can maybe explain a little bit about. So crown bowls is very similar to lawn bowls, where the green is not flat. It is actually, how do I explain this? Higher in the middle and slopes downward around it. So is that concave, I guess, where it's the middle is the high point and it goes down everywhere else. But you play with a weighted jack. Yeah, there's a hump in the middle, exactly. So you play with a weighted jack, and you have to actually clarify to your opponent whether you're playing thumb or finger, meaning whether you're rolling it forehand or backhand. So the jack's weighted, and then you get 2 bowls to go and try and bowl in any direction to it. The mat that you use is super tiny, and so you just put your toes basically on it and bowl in any direction, any way you want. And just have a game of bowls. So there's really no boundaries or anything like that. You just have at it. Super popular in the UK, Britain, I believe, Scotland maybe. There are actually many crown greens that are associated with restaurants, bars, pubs, stuff like that. I will say be careful, Shane, when you go to the UK, as there is a lot of betting and gambling involved with crown bowls, I'm told. And so some people might be willing to take you for a ride, saying that, you know, $10 a game, $10 a point, whatever it is they gamble for. And just because you're a bowler, they might think you're an expert, let you win a couple games, and then crush it later. It is not the same dimension, Susan, but I'm not quite sure what it is. It is still large square green, so to a non-bowler it would probably look similar. But I believe the dimensions are different. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, though. Game at hand here, Pat Bird picked up 2 to start this second set. And yes, the mat is way up. This took a while before we got to this point. During the majors in Burlington, Pat, during the singles, always has the mat up near the hog line. Seems to be his bread and butter, so I'm kind of surprised that he didn't do that during the first set here. Are those short pillars the hogs, you're asking, Susan? I do not believe so, no. So that is just how the building here was built, where they have those pillars. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 of them along the center line on the right-hand side of your screen that you can see. Those are not the hog lines. They're just there to support the building, more or less. There are subtle markers. I guess you can't really see that on your screen. The pillar that looks like a V on the top right of your screen, it is sort of halfway between that one and the other one where the hogline marker is. It is a small white strip on the bank on the side there. It's very small to see. I'm not sure if the quality of this camera is going to let you be able to see it from this camera angle, but there are markers there for hoglines that the players can see. And it's visible enough here that you can see it from, I can see them from where I'm sitting here behind the rinks. But I was actually asked this question earlier, and I don't know off the top of my head, but the minimum distance for Jack to mat, 21 meters versus 23 meters, it's actually different for indoor than it is for outdoor. So I'm not sure how many of you are aware of that or familiar with that. But one of the fun things that we get to do as a country is set our own domestic regulations, meaning we can set regulations for play in Canada. And one of the things that happened back in 2011 is that we can set the discretion of whether the minimum jack length is 23 meters or 21 meters. And so in March 2011, BCB with the umpire committee decided to change the minimum jack length from 23 meters to 21 meters for all play in Canada, except for the Pacific Indoor Bowls Club and Qualicum Indoor Venue, which continue to use a minimum jack length of 23 meters. I believe that was for safety considerations, dealing with rebounding jacks and what have you, but that was well before my time, so I can't comment too much more on that. And speaking of the World Bowls book, we are coming out with a new version of the Laws book. So, World Bowls has approved the 4th edition of the Laws of the Sport of Bowls. Our current umpire committee has been reviewing that, going through that, and we'll be working on updating our current rule book, getting it translated, and hopefully printed and ready to go for summer next year. So stay tuned for April, May, when you can order the 4th edition of the Laws of the Sport of Bowls. Crystal mark, 4th edition, I guess. Huge thanks to Gilles Dessert from Quebec, who's going to help us on translating. He volunteered to make that his winter project, to go through the English version, translate it all for French, as there were a couple of translation issues with the 3rd version. Not to worry if you didn't memorize it, as there is going to be yet again another handy little index in the back, and so I'm going to give a big shout out to Nick Watkins, the chair of our umpire committee, as he's the one who crafted the index on the 3rd version, and we'll be doing it again for the 4th version, which is no small task. Index being at the back, you can look up for what exactly you're looking for, and it will tell you what page it's on. So if you're looking for something, I don't know, hogline related or throwing bulls out of order or whatever it is, you can go to the index and then it'll tell you what page it's on. Exactly, a cheat sheet. So thank you, Nick Watkins, for undertaking that program once again. Not a small task by any means. Game at hand here. Pat is sitting pretty. A couple of beauties there. And John has last bull. I expect some weight coming here, as it's not going to change the outlook much. Both players have 1 bull on the bank. And that came out wobbly out of the hand and not nearly as heavy as I was expecting, but he got it anyway. And the jack did kill, so that's going to be back on the tee. That's going to be 1 to John. Great shot. 1 to John. I don't know if that back right one would be second shot. I don't think so. See what the marker says. And rink here in the middle on rink 5. Jim Duhalke's also throwing weight, getting a ridiculous bounce. Good luck there. He waves to Hren saying, my bad on the lucky shot. Crashed and burned into the head. Got some jack movement. Hren goes from 2 up to 1 down. So that was 2 to Mr. McDonald. Good question, Susan. What bowls are they using? So Pat is using what I believe are arrow bowls. I actually don't know what type. I'm going to guess grooves. And I have absolutely no idea what John is using. I didn't have a chance to get out there and take a look at what they're using as I was too busy scrambling trying to get the cameras up and running. And even with my scrambling, we were still tuned in 3 ends late. Good afternoon, Charlie Taylor. Tuning in from, I believe, still Ottawa, Ontario, instead of Saskatchewan. I don't think I can run out and check, as the markers and umpires might have a thing or two to say. You can see 2 of them down there at the end, so big thanks to Dudley Knox and the umpire crew for keeping watch on the folks here today. Pretty good opening bowl there from John. Not surprisingly, when Pat had the mat up at the hog line, John has brought it right back, and they are pretty close to the tee. Playing a medium length. This is slightly over medium, slightly over mid. And Pat is resting John's bowl here to claim shot. So we will be streaming 2 games tomorrow, 2 games the day after that, etc., until the finals on Saturday. There are 2 games on Saturday morning, the last round for the women, the last round for the men before we get into the gold medal match. So I would expect that to be around 1 p.m. local time, but of course with no time limits, it makes it very difficult to know for sure just how long those games are going to take. But this was the first day of round robin for the women and the second for the men, so this is their 3rd game overall. And you can check the standings and results and all that fun stuff over on bullscanada.com website. Charlie, you are well worth the money there that a lefty will win this game. I don't imagine that Pat or John are suddenly going to switch to righties. That's a beautiful bull there from Pat Bird. I mentioned at the start of this broadcast that Pat Bird was, I believe, 2-0 and John was 1-1. Based off of the sets, or set points, I guess you could say, John is actually currently in 4th place going into this game, despite the fact he's 1-1. The 3 in front of him are 2-0. The tie-breaking procedure for this event is interesting because not only do wins and losses matter, but then set wins and losses matter and set points before we get into plus minus and all that fun stuff. So there's an extra complicated layer of figuring out who goes where. And I would encourage you to go read the conditions of play to find out how that tie-breaking procedure works. This event, there are no on-green tiebreakers at the end of the round robin. It is all on paper. And Shane, absolutely, you can still come and leave comments on YouTube even when you're watching live. So far, knock on wood, there's no bots on this YouTube stream, as there were all throughout Burlington, so I'm happy to leave your comments stand until those bots show up, and then I'll delete them along with the bot comments. There is a ditch, Susan. So you can see in the bottom left corner the yellow strip. That is the top of the ditch board. Bulls do go into the ditch there. It's a normal one. You can actually kind of see the ditch on the side as well. So you can see John walking down here. If you go to the right of his foot, there's a ditch all along that side as well. So it's a very tight head here. Pat is still holding one at the moment. One bull left for each player to come. I think that John's probably just looking to rest his, roll Pat over, and that could be enough to get him shot. But also with Pat having the best back bull and the tee covered, you don't want to play with fire. And he is playing cautiously into this. Scarcely more than a draw, just looking to make some contact, and he doesn't get it, but pretty good weight for the shot he was going for. And Pat is counting it. He's saying, yeah, pick it up. I'm not playing into this. So that'll make it 3-2 for Pat over John after 3 ends of play. And of course, with sets being in the second set, the ends are kind of backwards, where normally in a normal game it's even numbered ends that are coming back in this direction, but with 9 end sets you finish on an odd number, and so coming back it is now odd end sets coming back this way. So they've just played 3 ends and we'll be starting end number 4. And Pat once more has the mat way up. Pat does a pretty good job, just a meter shy of the tee. Right next to the jack, you might be able to see that white speck. That's the specks along the center line. This is close. We're calling for an umpire measure. So while the umpires come down to do a jack length measure, rink 1, we've got Alan up 5-zip over Tim in the second set, even though Tim won the first set. Jerome is up 3-2 over Kerry in the second set, even though Kerry won the first set. And it looks like Doug is up 3-zip over Carter in the second set, even though Carter won the first set, which is interesting. Also calling for an umpire on 5, so we might be waiting here a little bit, as there's only so many umpires here to do the job. You can see that's Davey Matthew there, looking to find the number on the tape measure, and it is short by about, it looked like 5 inches or so when Davey was holding up his fingers. And John is kicking the bulls back as he is fully planning to bring the mat right back. You can see where he's placing it here now, just about on the tee. So down here on rink 6, Pierre Vanderhoot's up 4-0 over Eric in the second set, even though Eric won the first set. And Jim is up 4-0 over Heren, and Jim did win the first set. Probably a 3/4 length jack, I would say. Eric Gallipo just threw a drive here on 6 and got a nice split to knock a couple of Pierre's bulls out. And Pat's first bull is covering the tee. Interesting strategy. beautiful opening bowl from John McDonald. My goodness. Call it strategic. That's what I do too, Susan. Not that I play much anymore, but more often than not when I do play, I'm nowhere near, so we'll call it strategy. And it does look like that might be having a factor here on Pat, as his first one was well past and the second one's coming up a bit short. Trying to get back that feel for the weight. As John is pouring some heat on here. John has found his weight. This is his preferred length, apparently. Words of wisdom there, Susan. It's a blocker at her best back. When in doubt, always put in a back bowl if you're not feeling it. Pat's throwing some weight here on his forehand, it looks like. And coming up narrow. I would not be surprised if John's going to go back and try to cover the tee here now. Good point, Susan. Never say no to a back bowl. It's coverage and it's out of my dang way. There is nothing worse than getting up to the mat and there's the Great Wall of China in front of you that you can't get through. So I think John is looking to get back to the tee. Not a lot of room for error for being able to cover it, and so he's well past it. Does give him best back, though. Well, that's a new saying. I don't think I've ever heard that. A row of soldiers on guard. New name for when there's 47 short bowls. I don't know if I saw any umpires called yesterday for the 2 rounds the men played, but now, not sure if you'll be able to see that in the top right of your corner. There's another jack measure being called, so within 5 minutes, the umpires are getting busy. That's 3 different calls in the past 5 minutes. Pat is still sticking with his forehand, still throwing weight. That was a nice smooth delivery. No bumps there at all, but missed it, took himself out. So now, with only 1 bowl on the green for Pat, John has an opportunity here. He's currently lying 2. He could try to play some weight into this, chip the jack back and go for 4. Kill the jack. Doesn't need to be too aggressive, just any jack movement at all. Not a huge target either, so you don't really risk taking yourself out. Yes, he's holding 2, and yes, it's pretty wide open to draw for 3, but I would get greedy here and try and go for a little bit of jack movement. He is not doing that at all and is still sticking with the draw and playing on the risky hand with Pat's in front there. Looks like he might be around it, so he should be okay. Coming in nicely, and he did just draw for 3. Beautiful bowl. Clinician. Roy, your fellow Albertan listened to you and said just take the 3. That does give him the lead. Yeah, that is kind of interesting, Shane, with the jack measure, because you can just measure using the dots at PIBC. Since there are dots every meter out, it is pretty straightforward where the jack is in relation to the mat if you're one dot past the tee or one dot short of the hog. Once more, John's got it. Probably that 3/4 length. I can see there's the tee, 1, 2. It's on the third dot. There are 2 dots between the jack and the tee. So 3 meters from the tee. And John is back between the tee and the first dot. I can tell you, Sarah, that when Davey was here yesterday, after taking the ferry over from the island, he was still wearing his BC hat and usual attire. So it is interesting to see Davey not wearing a BC shirt. Davey, of course, being one of the umpires and does a lot for Bulls BC. Usually goes to all the national championships as their team manager. Quite often he's playing in them, whether as a sub or whether he made it on his own right. Been around Bulls forever and a day and does a whole lot at Juan de Fuca and with Bulls BC in general. And what a beautiful draw here from John McDonald. Putting the pressure on Pat, so 5 ends to go. Pat needs to win this set to force a tiebreaker set. And this is not quite a must-win game for John, but with 12 people, 11 games. Beautiful bowl here from Pat. 12 people, 11 games. Usually, if you lose 3 games, you're not playing for gold. There is always exceptions, but quite often I found when I'm here, gold medalists either have 0, 1, or 2 losses. When you get to that 3 losses, it's not often that you'll find yourself playing for gold. So John's already lost 1, doesn't want to lose any more. And coming right back to the center line, these players have found their line. Pat Bird still holding 1, his 3rd bowl here to come. Still playing that backhand on that outside line. All in the weight here. And that should be good for 2. Plenty of room to draw for John. Anything within 2 feet will get you shot. 1 bowl left per player. Round 3 of the 2022 Canadian Indoor Singles Championships, our final event of the year. John is chasing this one down. He's walking quickly after it. Don't think he sent it, coming up short. Big opportunity here for Pat. Asking if he's holding 2. Marker says yes. John's last bowl might be kind of a nuisance bowl, though. Might be in Pat's line. I would be tempted to switch hands if I were Pat. Of course, you can draw around that bowl, though. The greens here are beautiful, and they will come back. And Pat did do that. He did change hands based on his body language. I don't think he liked it. Did he get out wide enough? Yes, he did. Not sure what's not to like about that, as that is number 1 itself. So that'll be good for 3 for Pat Bird to retake the lead, 6-5. After 5. the folks in the chat, do you have any early bets on who you think is going to be playing in the finals? This is game number 3 for the men. The women have played 2 as well. So you can go and check out the standings to see where everybody's at. Any early guesses? It's early on in the event. It's a tough field. I don't know if I would say there is such a thing as a bad guess. So Pat's changing his tactic here a little bit now. He's got the mat back just on the tee, not quite. Probably the middle of the mat is on the tee. Beautiful bowl there from Pat. And Susan, no, I absolutely will not be playing in this event as much as I would love to. The greens are phenomenal here. I've played on them maybe once if I'm being generous. I don't think I've ever played at this event, so I've been here for streaming the indoor 3 or 4 times, streaming the North American Challenge when it was here in 2016. But I absolutely will not be playing, so good guess though. I don't think I'm good enough to compete with this field anyway. Interesting, Shane. The 2 gents on rink 5, so that's Heren Bartu and Jim Duholke. So Heren has won this event 4 times in a row, I believe. So that's what, 2019, 18, 17, and 16. But also 8 times over his career, I believe. 7 or 8, somewhere in that ballpark. And he told me beforehand that he was practicing a whole lot at Qualicum Beach on their indoor leading up to this event. So I would agree with you that I think it will be tough to beat him here. And Jim has made his way to the outdoor singles finals before, so he's no stranger to playing high stakes. I believe Jim is a much newer bowler though, 6 year, 7 year, something like that, maybe 8 year. Playing such a short jack, it's hard to tell just how short those bowls are in front of the jack. John is for sure holding 1. That's about all I can see from here though. As Pat chases his bowl down, that looks to be a little quick through the head. Don't know if that flop in is good enough for shot. It was, so that is shot bowl. Pat's last bowl there on the right is shot. And so John is also playing on the forehand, looking to follow Pat down. I think you're right, Shane, and that was back in 2018, if memory serves, where Jim Duholke lost to Earl Luck in the finals of the outdoor singles in Regina. 2018. So that was a good 4 years ago. That was also the first year that we changed the outdoor singles from being an open event to capping it at 24. So there's a lot of interest that year as the novelty aspect brought a lot of people out. speaking of short bowls, with those 4 in front of the jack up there, that's going to make it a little trickier for Pat and John to get through as they each have 1 bowl left to come. And Pat has taken a good hard look here. Not quite sure what to do. Ooh. There's a bold take, spicy take. Mike Spatafor suggesting that the gold final could be Kerry Lussier versus Pat Bird. That is a spicy take. I love it. Kerry is 1-1. Pat's 2-0 at this point. And Kerry did win his first set over Jerome, but is currently down 5-3 in the second set against the Manitoban. Jerome and Kerry have been here many years before, so that's a tough battle. And I apologize, I was looking at the ends, not the score. Jerome is actually up 8-3 over Kerry. John's taken a good hard look at this. Last bowl to come. Currently down 1 in the head, but lots of junk in front. That's tricky. The way he's standing here now, you can see him squatting down there. I'm not sure what you can see on that hand. I guess pumping his short bowls into Pat. Or sorry, pumping Pat's into his. Yeah, I don't know. I don't see much on that hand at all. I think he's got to stick with that ditch hand side and try to draw around and come down to Pat's bowl. I might get a kiss off of his short bowl there in the top right corner of your screen. That's really all I see, but no coach here for Alberta, as Derek Dillon is notably absent, so there's no one for him to talk to discuss strategy or what to do here at this point in time. And playing the 6th end of the second set with a 1-point game, this could be a crucial shot. He did play the hand I thought he was, but he's a touch heavy. That's a pretty good effort, I would say, though. Nothing wrong with that. Shane saying that Eric's the wild card. He really pushed her in hard yesterday, but also loves watching Kerry play because he keeps it entertaining. Absolutely. And Sarah, you're guessing Huron versus Bird, so Huron by 2 versus Pat Bird. I would not be surprised if that's what the final is, as Pat Bird has played in the finals many times before. He's had a heck of an outdoor year after winning gold in both outdoor singles and men's fours. And Huron, of course, being defending champ here for more years than anyone else can count. I'm surprised that nobody in the chat, though, has mentioned Tim Mason, as he's a local Vancouverite and is a tremendous bowler as well. So I'm not willing to count him out of the running either. But realistically, this field is super tough. I could see anybody here playing in the finals. So Pat has now once again brought the mat back up almost to the hog. Jack on the tee. He's been trying to get it to this strategy here for a little while. Brought the mat up once, and then John counted, brought it up again, and didn't throw the jack long enough. So then changed it up and kept the mat at the tee and threw a short jack instead, and now he's right back again to bring mat up to the hog. And it seems to have maybe thrown John off, because John is just clinging on. You can't see it around the pole, but his bowl is still on the green. And perhaps tomorrow we might be graced with, you saw the face of her as she popped down there. Kira Shalo is here from Alberta as well, the reigning under 18 girls champ. Showed up here with Alexis Gallagher to cheer on a few players, so I'm hoping to get one of those 2 Alberta folks on the mics later. So John has made a bit of an adjustment. To give you some reference, his first bowl is about 2.5 to 3 feet behind his last one that just rested there, so you can see the poles in the way, so obviously you can't see it. I'll do my best to describe it. Pat's is equally weighted as John's behind the pole, and probably about a 1.5 feet to the left of the center line. The left meaning the ditch hand side, the side that Pat is standing on right now. So this change in length of getting the mat to the hog has thrown both players for a loop. Pat's got one in there, but other than that, it is pretty wide open. John's looking to find something close on his third, and he's in the ballpark. He is drawn it, number one. Third time's the charm. Give you some score updates. Alan Wass is up 8-2 over Tim on rink one after 7, and Tim took the first set. Jerome Kirby's up 8-3 over Kerry Lucier after 6, although Kerry took the first set. Doug Prop is up 8-1 over Carter Watson, even though Carter took the first set. Shane, I could not agree more. There are a lot of repeaters here. When I look around at the faces, there are not a lot of new faces. Doug Prop from Saskatchewan is here every year. Carter Watson, this might be a first or second time for him. From Alberta, Pat's been here years beyond count. John's been here a couple times before. Jerome Kirby's here all the time. So yeah, there are a lot of familiar faces from the non-BC folks. Ontario might be the oddballs. Kerry's been here many times, but Eric and Pierre is relatively new for them, all things considered. So game in hand here. John's looking to draw a second one, and he's in the ballpark. Little jack movement's good, but he just misses. That might still be good for a second shot, though. It's going to be close. From my point of view, I don't think that's good for 2, but it was a great effort nonetheless. Little jack movement would have been great for 3, but just missed it. Pat's kicking out one for sure, doing the finger dance. Why you wouldn't just measure is beyond me. So that was for sure 1 to John, maybe 2. So it's either a 1-point game or we're tied after 7 ends. So just up and back here in the second set, and it is a close second set. We'll see what the marker puts on the scoreboard, as I don't want to guess incorrectly. It was 2. We are all tied up, folks, with 2 ends to go. Now that John has the jack, he's back to his 3/4 length. You and I both zoom. I do love those giant numbered scoreboards. They make it very easy to tell who's who. I think they're actually drilled into the backboard, so they're always there. They don't move. And they use people's initials that are huge so you can see from a distance as well. So kudos to whoever got those back in the day, late 90s. They are a thing of beauty. So John's looking to try and draw closer here with his second, as I think Pat is currently lying 1 after they each rolled 1 bowl so far. And John is coming up just past. We are good for, that's a number 1 to John McDonald. Putting the pressure on the Birdman. So based off of the dimples on John's bowls, I am speculating that they are a Taylor bowl. I could be totally wrong, but from this distance, you can usually kind of tell that the dimples are a little bit different from Arrow to Taylor to Henselite or Drake's Pride. John turned around immediately after rolling that. Did not like it at all. Not entirely sure why. I guess it is a bit short. So Eric Gallipo's up 11-5 over Pierre van der Hout, and Eric did win the first set, so he is on his way to straight setting his fellow Ontario native. And on the middle rink here, Jim Duholke's up 6-5 over Heren after 7 in the second set, and Jim did win the first set. So that's an interesting concept, Susan. So with the greens being as fast as they are, the whole concept of a wing bowl is actually very different here than what you'll find on an outdoor green, because the angles that you're playing with are different, as well as the pace that you're rolling your bowl. So yes, wing bowls still are nuisances here at the indoor, but the angles are actually slightly different. And if you're not used to playing here, you might think, oh, that's a perfect wick bowl, and in reality it's not, because you need a different angle based off of the speed and aiming line you're taking here at the indoor. All that to say, though, I have seen many a wick this week already of people getting fortuitous bounces. Beautiful pull in here from Johnny. Good for 2. Pat has 1 left to come, and I would expect he will not be short. Seven after 7. John McDonald holding 2. Last ball to come from Pat Bird. Anybody want to take a guess on what he's doing here? Option for a trail for 3. Option for jack in the ditch for 1, maybe 2 if you get a own bull coming through on your drive through. Roy's calling it a draw through the head for 2 or 3, so just a nice little trail. Just a foot through. Looks like Pat's on his forehand, and he is playing weight. Well, that is a unfortunate result. Instead of being down 2, it looks like he could be down 3 now. Yikes. Just too late on the replay there, as I was hoping to rewind. There's a fun little feature on this app now. I can press replay and it'll quickly hop back 5 seconds, but I was a touch too late to touch the replay button. Yeah, that is an ouch. That could just about be the game then, depending on how this last end shapes up. Kicking out 1. Will we kick out 2? Will we kick out 3? And since John won the first set, Pat needs to win this second set. He cannot tie it. If he ties it, he loses the game. So Pat needs to outright win the second set to force the tiebreak. That's where winning that first set is so important. Marker has put up 2 on the scoreboard for Mr. McDonald. So that means that Pat Bird needs to score 3 here to force the tiebreak. John just needs to do anything but give up 3 or 4. You can give up 2 and be fine. Yikes on bikes. I've never heard that before. Love that. Absolutely stealing that, Susan. Thank you. Yikes on bikes. Not surprisingly, John is right back to this 3/4 length. This is getting closer to the full length, though, as he's now only 1.5 meters short of the tee. Although he does have the mat up, so never mind. Didn't realize he'd brought the mat up as far as he did. Interesting strategy to change that going into the last end of the second set. I'm not quite sure what his thought process was here, as that's the first time he's brought the mat up. Just a meter past the jack. That's binky bonkers. I will let you keep that one. That doesn't roll off the tongue as nicely for me. I'm going to stick with yikes on bikes. Or maybe I should say yikes on mics, since I'm on air. Pretty good opening bowl here from Pat. Kind of surprised that Pat has been switching hands here. At the start of this game, he was playing that ditch hand side coming this way. Now he's playing the opposite hand. So usually the general rule to stick to in singles is find a hand and stick with it and don't switch unless you absolutely have to. So I'm not sure what that's saying about how this rink's playing or Pat's confidence or comfortability with that hand anymore. John's holding 1, and Pat needs 3. This is interesting. Absolutely need something past the jack here to give yourself a chance. That looks tight to me. He's got the weight to hold it. And did crash on a bull to keep him alive. He's now got the tee covered, so that ended up in a really good spot. In a really good spot. So now for John's third bowl, I would highly suggest you go back and try to cover the tee as well. That does look like what he's doing. Scratch that. I thought that was much quicker out of the hand. He's grabbing the jack and trailed it back a little bit. So John's holding 2 and a look. Pat's coming down to take a look. So since Pat needs 3, he's looking to either trail it back to his 1 on the tee. Definitely don't want to lose your bowl here. So I don't think a drive is in the equation, because if you miss on that drive, your goose is cooked. So he's probably looking to trail it. And if he misses, end up in a good pocket spot, so that way he still has a shot with his last bowl. So probably 3 feet, 4 feet through the head, looking to grab the jack on the way through. Give yourself a shot for your last bowl. The way he's lining up, I'm not sure. He is throwing some weight. I am shocked by this. Crashing on one of John's bowls. So he took one of John's out, but John's still holding 2. Pat only has 2 bowls on the green, and he needs a 3 here. I suppose from the mat that might look like you could double out John's bowls, so anything on the other side of the jack, ending up on the high side as he is playing his forehand. High and wide, so you can't get a triple takeout. And he did just that. He is staying high and wide, but that could still get a triple, possibly. You can't predict lefties. Too true. I've never seen a lefty that wasn't a good bowler. So John's holding 3, holding game. Pat needs to somehow score 3 here, so he needs a triple takeout. triple, but shooter will not stay. If he uses his short bowl to pound it into the head to get 3, his shooter might stay. Might collide into some stuff. And missed it all through the hole of everything. So that will be 3 to John McDonald to make it 12-7. That is the game. That's the set. John McDonald has won both sets straight over Pat Bird, so he'll improve to 2-1, and Pat will drop to 2-1. That is it. That's all from me here today. Thank you everyone for tuning in and watching. Excellent game. Kudos to Pat and John for putting on a good show. It does look like Jim Duholke won on rink 5 here as they're cleaning up Shane, so I believe Jim won straight sets over Heren. Keep an eye on the website so you can follow along the score standings results, and I will be back here on YouTube, all things going good tomorrow morning at approximately 10:45 a.m. local time, give or take. I guess before I sign off, Roy, you're looking for some results around the board. Looks like Alan and Tim are starting the first end of a tie break. Carrie and Jerome are starting the first end of a tie break. And Carter and Doug are still finishing up the second set, but they will be heading into a tie break. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.